It's officially Big 12 play for the Arizona Wildcats football program. They get ready for their conference opener against number 14, Iowa State. We appreciate you guys for listening and watching the Wildcast podcast on Apple, Spotify, also Tucson.com. For all your Arizona football coverage, make sure you go to Tucson.com and the Wildcaster mobile app. And basketball season is right around the corner. The Big 12 schedule was just released for both men's and women's basketball programs. We have some stories on that. Red-blue game right around the corner. So basketball season is here. But, usually, Arizona fans at this time of the year, they make their decision whether or not it's football season or basketball season. And I feel like football team 3-0 going into this big game against Iowa State. We'll talk about that matchup with the Cyclones and break down every little detail about that game. But, Lev, I would say that the vibes are high right now with Arizona football. There's a lot of optimism. There's still – I feel like there's a sector of the fan base that's like, okay, but Kansas State, not really the team that we thought they were going to be this year. This really feels like the real test for Arizona football. And the thing that I'm looking forward to, just how competitive is Arizona going to be in this game? Are they going to go out there and put up a stinker after a bye week where you had 2 weeks to prepare for Iowa State? Or are you going to be competitive, give yourself a fighter's chance and either win in a close game or win that game or lose in close fashion? I think if Arizona were to keep this game competitive, regardless of the results, I think Arizona football fans will be feeling pretty good about the current state of the Wildcats.
Yeah, so that game kicks off at 4 o'clock our time on Saturday. We are recording this at 5:15 p.m. or so on Wednesday. Justin, I want to know what you're going to be doing at 7 o'clock tonight.
Oh, yeah. So I'm going to be hitting my refresh button, waiting for the first availability report for Arizona this season. Arizona, they could have done it for the Kansas State game, but both teams decided, okay, we're not going to do that. And so, now that Arizona's in Big 12 play, they have the availability report, which in our opinion, in our perspective, it's the injury report, but they're not calling it the injury report. It's the availability report. So we'll see who's questionable and doubtful, and we'll see who pops up on that list. You excited?
I'm very excited about this. This is information that we've been craving for a while.
This is your personal quest, Lev.
It kind of is. Yes, it kind of is. I brought it up with Commissioner Yormark when he was here last fall, and he kind of was like, yeah, we're interested in doing that. A couple of other conferences already had done it. So now the Big 12 is bored. It's only for conference games, but it provides some clarity. I think there's less of the nonsense that goes on with coaches just kind of talking around these things. Brent Brennan does not like to talk about injuries at all. Mm-hmm. So this makes it easier for us and our interactions with him. It's just, you can say, hey, well, wait for the injury report. Rich Rodriguez used to have his own injury report that he put out on Thursday, and that was his standard line. And it was pretty effective, honestly. It's what do you like? All right, I guess we'll wait till Thursday. In this case, we get an update Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Which is maybe a little much, and it's a lot of detail, but I'd rather have it be that way and scale it back than have it be, some kind of a bare bones minimum thing. But yes, the first injury report is coming out tonight.
It's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah.
We don't got to bug the coaches about it. The coaches don't have to address the situation. Like you said, look at the availability report.
Yeah. So, and I would expect, based on what we've heard out of Iowa State, that Kyle Conradi, Iowa State's excellent place kicker, is going to be on that availability report and not in a favorable way for the Cyclones. Matt Campbell indicated that he's probably going to miss this game. He's been dealing with a nagging injury, and that's a major weapon for that Iowa State team. He kicked the game-winning field goal against Iowa each of the last 2 years. 2 years ago, or last season, it was a 50-plus yarder. Earlier this season, he kicked a 63-yard field goal, at Iowa State. No elevation to speak of in the Midwest, and he nailed that thing. So, for a team in Iowa State that plays a lot of close games, that's a pretty big loss. And the replacement is a true freshman. So, Chase Smith, we'll see if it comes down to the end, like who's got the advantage there. I wouldn't necessarily say that Arizona has a huge advantage with Michael Salgado Medina, who's been inconsistent so far. I think it's fair to say with his place kicking. And, you're in uncomfortable environment, though you don't know what the wind is going to be like. You're not used to that surface. So, yeah, I mean, that's the kind of game I expect. So we could have some, hashtag college kicker action down at the wire over their names.
We're going to answer some of Lev's mailbag questions that he put out last week. But before I do, Lev, I wanted to just kind of talk about this matchup and just kind of how these two teams square up with each other. Mm-hmm. And one thing I found very interesting is, like, I'm looking over the Big 12 stats and where these teams rank. Mm-hmm. And in several categories, Arizona's better than Iowa State.
Sure.
Like several categories: total defense, total offense, rushing defense. I mean, all of that. But the thing that really jumped out to me is just how disciplined Iowa State is, and just kind of the little things that they do. Like they're the top punt returning team in the Big 12, which is kind of key for field position. And then penalties, Lev. I did not know this until today, but Iowa State, they are the number one team in the Big 12 when it comes to penalties, meaning they don't have a lot of penalties. They've only got 12 penalties this year, and they have the fewest penalty yards. And Arizona, they're third to last with 25. So they have more than double the amount of penalties.
In one fewer game, by the way.
In one fewer game. That's the thing. So I said it to you yesterday. It's like Iowa State football, they're like the San Antonio Spurs of college football. Like nothing they do is super flashy or super sexy. And I'm talking about the San Antonio Spurs with Tim Duncan and Manu Ginobili and Tony Parker, not the current rendition with Victor Wembanyama, who's a freaking alien. But like you think about Pop's Spurs and just what they did, nothing, it was super, flashy, but it worked. It's a winning product, and they play disciplined. And they're also, and you're going to dive into this for Cat Stats, but they're also really efficient on third and fourth down. They're fourth in the Big 12 on third down conversions. On fourth down conversions, they're number one in the Big 12. Now, Arizona, the defensive side of the ball for them, they held Kansas State to 3 for 17 on third and fourth down combined. So we're going to get some interesting matchups here in this Arizona-Iowa State game. I love the quarterback battle. Like you have, two of maybe some of the most underrated quarterbacks in the conference. Like the conference is loaded with quarterback talent, right? Josh Hoover is one of those guys that's just a freaking stud. I envision him playing on Sundays. But like Rocco Becht is a very productive guy when you look at the Iowa State like all-time passing yards and quarterback statistics. Rocco Becht is like top 5 in damn near every category. And I think when it's all said and done, he might be that second best quarterback behind Brock Purdy. And, he's a guy that's not really thought about as like a, one of the upper echelon quarterbacks in the Big 12, but he's a really good quarterback, has a lot of moxie, kind of sneaky athletic, can use his legs from time to time. And I feel like Noah Fafita, kind of the same way, right? He's a little bit more undersized than Rocco Becht, but has a lot of moxie, can use his legs, and is also a really effective passer as well. So I think just the way these two teams match up, Lev, I'm super excited for Ames, Iowa coming up here on Saturday.
Yeah, that penalty stat is a great pull on your part. Iowa State is averaging 27 penalty yards per game. I mean, Arizona is liable to get that on one possession, right? Like,
yeah.
I mean, Arizona's had like what feels like a gazillion holding penalties. The majority of their penalties, I feel like, have been holding. I thought it was a super interesting observation from Seth Dagey about that. And one of our questions that we have is kind of on that subject. So I'll save what Seth said. But yeah, Iowa State is a team that in all likelihood is not going to hurt itself or beat itself, right? So you're going to have to beat them. And as you mentioned, I am going to do a deep dive on the third down situation. Little sneak preview on that. It's kind of as you'd expect, like the greater the distance, the lower the percentage, right, for Iowa State. So if you can get them into third and long situations, like big edge for Arizona. I also looked specifically at 3 to 6 yards, which was what defensive coordinator Danny Gonzalez said is sort of the championship down. 3rd and 3 to 3rd and 6. Arizona has been elite defensively in that particular category, like ridiculously good. So, when everyone is watching the game on Saturday, that is really something to watch. Like what happens on 3rd down when Iowa State has the ball? Are they staying on the field, or is Arizona getting them off the field?
Yeah, this is like you said, Led. This is going to be a game where Arizona has to go toe to toe with Iowa State and beat them, and create turnovers, create stops, because they're so disciplined. And I don't know if you saw this, Lev, but it's going to be a sellout at Jack Trice Stadium.
I saw. Yep.
They
I did. It's a whiteout. They're wearing white. Arizona is wearing all red, which I don't love, but I mean, I like the white pants for most combinations. But they're going red helmet, red jersey, red pants. So that'll just to stand out a little bit in the sea of white there. In Ames. What's the other kind of interesting aspect of this Iowa State team is how much they use tight ends.
Yes.
They even used 14 personnel at times, which is 4 tight ends on the field at once. Their 2 leaders in targets, Benjamin Bramer and Gabe Burkle, they have a combined 30 targets. One has 17, one has 13. Arizona has 8 total targets to its tight ends so far this season, only 3. Bramer and Burkle, they're both from the Midwest. They are both gigantic. Bramer 6'7", 250. Burkle is 6'6", 260. So I am super interested to see like how Arizona matches up against those guys. Like you probably think Dalton Johnson, right? Genesis Smith, these would be the best play. Maybe Gavin Hunter or Traden Stukes would be the best guys. And they're all pretty good sized defensive backs, but they're all no more than like 6'3", maybe, or like, I don't know, 210, 215 at the most. Maybe that's how big Dalton Johnson is. So they're going to be at a size disadvantage. So you really have to hone in on your technique, maybe use your quickness, try to gain an advantage some way, because those guys are monsters and they throw to them a lot.
Have you seen their O-line too? Those 2 guys at tackle. So they have at left tackle, James Neal III, who's 6'6", 325 pounds. And then at right tackle, they have Tyler Miller, who's 6'9", 335 pounds. And Danny Gonzalez is saying, even though he's a tower, he moves very well for his size. So you add those 2 tackles to what those tight ends bring, and that's why it's so important, like you said, Lev, for Arizona's defense to force Iowa State into these 3rd and long situations. So you can rely on those guys on the back end in those plays, guys like Genesis Smith and Dalton Johnson and Traden Stukes and the cornerbacks.
Yeah, Danny Gonzalez told us many things during his 40-plus minutes of media availability the other day.
And Take that, James Franklin.
He made reference to matching up with their personnel without, of course, telling us what he's going to do. But I think that we are less likely to see the 2-4-5 nickel alignment unless they get them in the 3rd and long situations. Like, I don't think that's going to be your base defense against this team that plays multiple tight ends and wants to kind of do a ground and pound type of attack. So big week for the defensive line. These guys really have to step up. We'll find out at 7:00 what Trey Smith's status is. He is an important figure in that regard. He is a plus size defensive end, at around 260, 265, 270, somewhere in there. Did not play this last week. Got hurt early in the Weber State game. They obviously did just fine without him, but you would rather have him,
no doubt,
especially in a matchup like this.
All right, we'll have more of the Arizona-Iowa State breakdown coming up later on in the podcast when we wrap things up and give our predictions for Big 12 Bonanza. Jordan Ham, unable to join the pod this week. He's a busy guy, just like everybody else, but he did give us his picks, and it should be a very entertaining Big 12 Bonanza. You're going to want to listen to this one. But let's get to the mailbag questions. Lev, I know you have a few from last week.
They're pretty fresh, actually, because I put out the cat signal this morning. So, all right, this one is from Wildcat 4L. What do you think would be the solution to the attendance problem at Arizona Stadium? Renovations, fan experience, quality of play, prices, etc. We've gotten a kind of a variation of this question multiple times, and I would say it's all of the above. And I
Yeah,
would also say that they're working on it. They've lowered some of the prices. They've tried to improve the fan experience before the game and during the game. Um, in my opinion, the number one factor is winning. If you win, they will come.
yep.
And if you put out a consistently successful and entertaining product, that will get people in the building. What do you think, Justin?
Absolutely. All of the above, first and foremost, is the answer to that question. But winning, people want to go see a winner on the field. And unfortunately, when it comes to football in Tucson, that everyone's just kind of in wait and see mode. Like everyone wants to see what the product looks like on the field before they invest their hard-earned dollars and go spend several hours, more so late nights. I know that we're going to have an afternoon kickoff for the game against Oklahoma State next week, which won't have Mike Gundy. I'm very upset about that. But yeah, I think that, fans, they don't want to go stay up super late at Arizona Stadium and go watch a loser play. If you're going to stay up late at night and, go spend your money, you want to see a successful product on the field. And so I think winning is certainly the cure to a lot of things. And, I give Arizona's administration a lot of credit, for lowering the ticket prices or, concession items. There are some items on the in the concession stands that are lowered. I think the drone show at halftime, the drone show at the start of the fourth quarter, like, you can appreciate the effort that they're putting in. The Bear Down Bash, right? The concert series. Who's to say that's not going to grow into a bigger thing in future years where they can actually get, and no disrespect to the current people that are on the lineup, but what if somewhere down the road they have enough money to go get a big artist and, you can go see a big country star right before you watch Arizona play football. And so I think right now they're taking all the right steps, and now they just have to be consistent about it, develop some traditions, and then just like I said, be consistent about it. But, I am curious, Lev, the pregame scene is always so fascinating to me because I feel like the tailgating scene could be a little bit better at Arizona, or like the stuff around the stadium. And, I'm going to Iowa State this week, and I talked to Travis Hines from the Des Moines Register, and he said Iowa State Stadium is just surrounded by parking lots. So it's just tailgating galore and has one of the best tailgating scenes in the Big 12. So, yeah, I think there's a number of things that can be improved, but I agree with you, Lev. I think that winning is certainly the cure.
I actually got a small taste of that tailgating scene last year. Remember I went to Kansas, right, for basketball against North Carolina, just a personal / work trip. And at the tail end of that trip, we got to see maybe the first quarter of Iowa State against Kansas at Arrowhead Stadium. Arrowhead Stadium is very cool, by the way. They have an awesome AFL Hall of Fame in there, but that same kind of setup. It's like all parking lots around there, and it was packed, and there were a lot of Iowa State fans in attendance. So I think that's what you're going to see when you get to Ames, get to Jack Trice Stadium. Okay, so we have two questions that pertain to special teams. All right, Michael Lucy asks, after the last game, Brennan said he hadn't thought about making changes to kicker / punter. Now that it's been over a week, has he had more time to consider splitting the kicking duties? And then I will pair that with this question from Cat Backer, which is, Ian Wagner obviously has the strongest leg on the team. What about him is it that keeps him from being our field goal kicker? Okay, so we did ask Brent about Michael Salgado Medina specifically, like whether he would remain the place kicker or whether that competition would be opened up. And he gave him a vote of confidence, right? I think this was last week before the bye. So I don't anticipate any changes there. If you look at the official depth chart that they put out, it's the same with punter. I am still not totally sold on Michael Salgado Medina as a punter.
No.
I think his delivery is slow, which leads to the possibility of blocks. I don't think he places the ball as well as Isaac Lovison, and wouldn't surprise me if there was a change, but we're not going to know that until they trot out there, because we did not ask that specific question, and I don't think he would have told us anyway if we did.
No. Yeah, he's not going to reveal. I mean, any little advantage that he could have going into this game, he's going to take it. And that means, or that also includes the mystery behind who's going to be their starting punter. But yeah, I agree with you, Lev. I just think that the punting side of things, I mean, it wasn't even like a slow get off that got blocked. He just dropped it. Like you can't have those simple, easy things like those mess ups. Like that can't happen.
Yeah, was it this game or the previous game where he had a punt? Look, and we don't want to pile on to Michael Salgado Medina here. We're just pointing out things that have happened, but he had one from about midfield and like booted it into the middle of the end zone. Like he didn't even give his teammates a chance to down it or knock it down. So I think work in progress there. What do you think about Ian Wagner?
Well, it's a lot easier. And I'm not trying to diminish what Ian Wagner is doing, because what he is doing is probably the bright spot of special teams, right? Like all those touchbacks. I mean, 20 out of 21 kicks are touchbacks. And like, part of me is like that one kick, they did it on purpose to see, what they would look like in kickoff coverage. Because every single kick, he just booms it to the back of the end zone. And it's kind of like, reminiscent of Tyler Loop in a lot of ways, just how he's able to boot the ball. But it is also a lot easier to kick on that tee. There's no snap. It's just the tee that's holding the ball. There's no rush. Yeah. You're just free thinking out there, going out there and booting the football. So I'm sure they have Ian Wagner in the back pocket in case something happens, not Tyler Loop, Michael Salgado Medina or Tyler Perjune. So, yeah, he's available if they absolutely need him in dire times. But, yeah, I think it's a lot easier to make that kick off the kickoffs, with all due respect to him.
Yeah, and I'm sure that at some point in time over the summer, they had him doing placement kicks and decided to narrow it down to the guys who seemed to be the best at it. They also needed to commit to somebody as the holder, right?
Yeah.
Like you want to have a consistency to the operation, and Ian Wagner is the one that they decided to be the holder. And he's done a really good job of that too, with some errant snaps. So I think those are some of the factors that have led them to the place that they're at right now. All right, I got one more for you. It's from Cat Bus. What did the coaches say or do differently than in previous weeks to help the team reduce the number of momentum-killing penalties? Arizona will need to play a clean game versus a ranked team on the road, and I want to believe they can win. So we asked Seth Dagey, the offensive coordinator, about all the holding penalties, and he said something that I never would have thought of, and it's actually kind of brilliant. He's like, these are a product of fatigue, right? A lot of these holding penalties have been at the end of drives, and he's like, when you get tired, you lose your fundamentals. Yep. You lose your technique. I'm like, damn, he's completely right about this. That is a brilliant observation from a smart young coach. He's all over it. And so I think, they trained, we've talked about this. They trained specifically for up-tempo offense. Offensive linemen are just over there by themselves. They throw the ball and make them run to another spot and line up, right? And then throw the ball to another spot and then make them run and line up. So they have tried to physically train them as best they can. I don't know. Maybe it's a mental component to fighting through that fatigue and not committing those mistakes. Difficult, I think, problem to solve, but at least I think the first step is recognizing maybe what the problem is. And it seems like Seth is onto something there.
Yeah. And all these holding penalties, like you pointed out, are all towards the end of drives, which
in the red zone, right? This is why their red zone touchdown percentage is so bad.
And it's great that they're making some field goals, but
that's a win for the defense.
That is 100%. And you can't just be kicking field goals against Iowa State. That's not going to get it done. Last year, heck, they showed it, even though they had this great weapon in Tyler Loop, who kept them in a lot of games. You can't just rely on Tyler Loop in his leg to get you 3 points. You need to put that ball in the end zone. And Arizona, on a lot of these drives, they're getting these penalties. And we've seen already a couple times this year. I mean, Noah Fafita should have 2 more rushing touchdowns, but because of holding penalties, it knocks them back and they have to settle for field goals.
Yeah, I think especially later in the season too, when they play BYU, Kansas, Baylor. I mean, these are high scoring teams. ASU.
Yeah.
You want to come away with 7 if you put in all the work and the trouble to get down there, right? Instead of 3.
And from an offensive lineman's perspective, I think about it like this. When if you're tired, you would rather, I guess, get the penalty than get your quarterback killed, right? So you're just like, I guess, a little extra handsy, and you're not really disciplined. Like I thought about, when you were talking about getting tired and whatnot. I remember falling down on a play when I was playing center, and I saw the defensive tackle going straight for the quarterback, and I'm like, oh no. And I lifted up my leg and I tripped him. And all of a sudden I just see a yellow flag go right in front of my face, and I get flagged for tripping. But the quarterback didn't get killed. So it's like, what do you want? You want the penalty, or do you want the quarterback to get killed? So at least, they're not allowing Noah to get killed, but there has been holding penalties on running plays that's killing drives, and they've also given up some pressures as well. So
yeah, I feel like most of the holding penalties have been plays where the ball carrier's gone past the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
Right. And the defender's trying to get away. And that is one of the easiest holds to see.
Yeah.
Right. Was it Danny yesterday who was talking about they should just allow holding in the interior?
Yeah.
Right. It's like, they should just allow it. Let them just kill each other in there, basically, is what he said. And then if it happens in the open field, then, you penalize those.
I tell you what, though, I expect Arizona to be wearing a lot of white gloves this week. I know that they're rocking a lot of red.
Oh, that's a good idea.
If you wear white gloves on white jerseys, you're not going to see that contrast of color.
See, okay. So I was at the Diamondbacks Dodgers game Tuesday night. Amazing game. Maybe the game of the year for the D-backs. Comeback victory, walk off last inning. But there was a double steal situation, and Gabby Marino was initially called out at second base. It was challenged. Call was confirmed, and he had bright yellow gloves on.
Yeah.
Right. So you could see very clearly that his hand came off the base at a certain point. I'm like, if he was wearing white gloves, he might have been called safe.
Mm-hmm.
And I would have had 2 more stolen bases for my fantasy team, but that's neither here nor there. I'm not bitter or anything.
You're not upset about it at all.
You know what I am upset about though, Justin? Last week's Big 12 bonanza. What a freaking disaster. Not necessarily for Justin Spears, mind you. Justin Spears, 4-4 against the spread, which last week, that's a good job, Justin. Way to go. You nailed it. Jordan, Ham, and I were both 2-6, which is just, I don't know, it's pathetic. We were both 3-5 straight up. You were 6-2 straight up. So I don't know. You're it's kind of a bit of an Occam's razor thing. I think sometimes Jordan and I both try to outsmart ourselves or whatever. And you're just kind of like, you know what? Take the better team. Right. Yeah. So anyway, because of all this, Justin has moved into first place.
Let's
on
go.
The season against the spread. He's 17-14. Jordan 16-15. I am 15-16. Justin is also in first place, straight up, 22-9. Jordan and I are both 19-12. So a lot of work to do.
Excellent.
This week. It said Jordan's not here, but he sent me a very long note, and I'm going to read what he wrote about every game, but a bit of an intro too here. He says, "Dear friends, please excuse my absence. I promise I'm not missing because of the steaming pile of picks I made last week. I mean, PU, talk about stank." So, Jordan acknowledges that he was not really on top of things last week either.
I love it. Okay.
We have a full slate of games.
Oh man,
this
I'm
week.
excited for this week.
Yeah, we have. It starts off with a really good game, maybe the game of the week in the conference, and that would be TCU at Arizona State. This is the Fox Friday night game. It is a 6 p.m. kickoff. And Arizona State is favored by 2.5. It's moved a little bit, but when I sent you guys the picks, it was 2.5. So that's what we go with, right? So this TCU team looks really good, right? I mean, they're 3-0. They defeated SMU last week in a rivalry game. Eric McAllister learned the name. Stud wide receiver for the Horned Frogs. 8 catches, 254 yards, and 3 touchdowns last week. I'm like, wow, right?
Yep.
I mean, incredible. TCU second in the league in total offense. Behind, I think it's Texas Tech is first. They're second in the league in passing offense. Josh Hoover, number 1 in passing yards per game, 333.3. Good win for ASU last week. Really good win. Going to Baylor, figuring out how to come out of there with a victory. Rayleigh Brown has emerged as a big-time rusher for them. He's third in the Big 12 in rushing. I don't think anyone necessarily – he was a big-time recruit when he first came out, but I don't think anyone saw that coming in terms of him being like the guy. But he's taken advantage of some injuries, and he's done really well. Interesting matchup here on, again, third down, a theme that we touched on earlier. TCU is first in the league in third down conversions at 62.5%. ASU is only at 30.2%. So that's an area of concern for them, to be sure. I'm going to hold off on my pick here until I'm going to go third on this one. I haven't fully decided yet. I'm going to read what Jordan had to say. Jordan's kind of our ASU expert. He covers ASU probably more so than U of A. He comes down here, blesses us with our presence whenever he can. He said this, Justin. He says, please take my analysis and stage directions very seriously.
Okay.
We don't have much of a costume budget, so this will have to come out of our own pocket. I'm sure you understand it's for the theater of the mind we are creating for the listeners. Okay, so here's the stage directions for this one. He says, please put on a Wizards cap or any Wizards attire you have around the house. We're not actually doing any of these things. I'm just reading them. And then he wrote, it is I, Mike Guardium Leviosa, wizard of all things Arizona athletics coverage. Like me, ASU defensive coordinator Brian Ward has been a wizard the past few weeks. The defense playing well against Baylor, may have been the confidence boost they'll need against another great TCU offense. Offensively, players not named Jordan Tyson are starting to get targeted more. Shimon Mateer has tied his career high for receptions in a game in back-to-back weeks. Derek Eusebio has gone from walk-on to a regular target of Sam Levitt's last week. He reminds of a guy like Jacob Manu, comes into the program with players getting much more hype, but he works and becomes a big-time impact player on the field. And he also says that running back Kyson Brown should be fully back, so the running game will be at full throttle. It will be a tall task to slow down this TCU offense, but I think ASU takes another step in figuring it out. Jordan's got ASU laying the 2.5 points. We do not have wizard costumes, but
no,
we understand the spirit of things here.
We don't have wizard costumes, but I love the Harry Potter reference for Jordan at the start of this. Now, this is a tough game. This is the game of the week, in my opinion. And I think ASU, they've done a nice job of bouncing back from that Mississippi State loss. I mean, ASU should be undefeated right now. They didn't, if their secondary didn't pee themselves late in that game, then we're talking about ASU being one of the top dogs in the Big 12. I still think they are one of the better teams in the league. But, man, I'm looking at their passing defense. It's one of the worst in the Big 12. But they're also one of the top teams when it comes to getting to the quarterback. I think they're like top 3 or 4 in sacks. So if the defensive line could get to Josh Hoover quickly, that's, in my opinion, the path to victory for ASU. But if Josh Hoover is just kind of sitting back there and he's able to read the defense and find his receivers. And there's some damn good receivers there, including that guy that you just mentioned in Eric McAllister, who just looks like a stud. I think it could be a long day for ASU's defense. I'm impressed by TCU. I think this Josh Hoover kid is an NFL quarterback. I think Sonny Dykes is a great coach. This is a tough call, but I'm going to go with TCU to win by a field goal in this game.
Wow. Okay. I thought you were going in the ASU direction there. I'm going to go with ASU just because I want to try to catch up with you. So
Okay.
there's my there's not much like logic or analysis behind that one. Very, very tight game, close game. I think the injury report is going to be kind of meaningful for ASU because they were missing some guys in their secondary.
Yeah.
And you want to have that unit, as close to full go as possible. So, we'll see what that looks like when it comes out at 7:00 to know. Actually, you know what? There should be one out already for ASU. Can you find that while I'm looking at the next game?
Yeah.
Because they're playing on Friday. There should be one out, I think, initially. So we'll see if there's any defensive backs on there. All right. So there's another Friday night.
Okay. Here we go.
Go ahead. Yep.
So out Xavier Alford.
No. Okay.
Kind of big. Also Montana Warren and Plas Johnson. Those are the DBs who are out. And then other defensive players, Albert Smith, the third defensive end. He is out. And then Michael Gardner, a guy who is being recruited by Arizona, he is also out. So a handful of defensive guys out.
I don't love this pick, but I'm going to stick with it. I think if it was 3.5, I'd go the other way.
Yeah.
But since it's 2.5 at the time that we sent it out, I'll take the Sun Devils in that one. All right. So there's another Friday night game, and it's a really weird one. Houston is playing at Oregon State. This game is at 7:30 on ESPN. And, Oregon State and Washington State, they just have really weird schedules still because they're like a two-member conference, right? So that's why you get these kind of weird matchups. Houston off to a great start. I mean, they're 3-0. No one's talking about them at all.
Nope.
They beat Rice 35-9. Rice is 3-1. So that's a pretty good win. Then again, Rice has a strength of schedule, according to ESPN, of 117. Houston has a strength of schedule of 118. So, maybe Oregon State represents a step up in competition. Maybe not. It's not like Oregon State's been any good. In fact, they've been terrible.
Yeah.
They're 0-4. They got absolutely blown out by Oregon this last week. They're 0-2 at home. They lost to Cal. They lost to Fresno State. Houston's defense has looked really good. 9.7 points per game allowed. 224 yards per game allowed. So there's no real logical reason whatsoever, I would say, to pick Oregon State in this game, but it's just too many points for me. I'm just not ready to say that Houston is going to go all the way up to the Pacific Northwest and just blow out Oregon State. So I'll take Houston to win, but I'll take the 13.5 points and take Oregon State to cover. I mean, I can see Houston winning this game like 30-20.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And I think really the path to victory for Oregon State, because they've looked terrible. And it's going to be kind of like a little dose of Pac-12 after dark. And Lev, crazy things happen in the Pac-12 on a Friday night, right? We've seen that several times over the years. So part of me is like, am I just going to go ahead and pick Oregon State to win this game because Pac-12 after dark?
You're in first place, man. You're playing with house money here. So
honestly,
if you want to go crazy.
Because I think what they're going to do is they're going to try to control time of possession. They're going to try to run the football a lot and get as many plays as possible and keep Connor Wegman and that offense on the sideline. And in Corvallis, oh, man, I don't feel confident. I actually want to go with Oregon State to win this game, but I'm going to go with Houston to win, but I'm going to go with Oregon State to cover.
You were so close.
I was so
close. All right. So the stage directions from Jordan for this game, he says, please put in a Paul Wall grill for this portion. Okay. He said, okay. Says, all right. This Beavers defense is so bad. Now you're supposed to say, how bad are they?
How bad are they?
They're so bad. Seeing these numbers makes me go, damn. And he spelled it D-A-M. They got beat up by Oregon and are now in a short week. Houston is coming off a bye and have done exactly what they're supposed to do against not great competition. They'll grill Ohio State on Friday.
I love it.
Jordan is taking Houston
because they
win and cover.
Houston, they have a really good secondary. Like they're one of the top teams when it comes to interceptions. So they got some ball hawks, and that's why I say Oregon State. If they can run the football effectively and score, then they'll be okay. But man, Jordan pulling out the Houston grill references and puns.
I don't even know. I don't know what he's talking about, but I'm glad that you guys are enjoying it, and hopefully our audience is enjoying it as well. As we move to the
grill, like the teeth. Like
that kind. Okay.
Yeah. Remember like PJ Johnson? Remember back in the day?
Sure.
Yeah. He had the gold grill. Yeah.
All right. Whatever you say. All right. So Cincinnati and Kansas lead things off on Saturday. This is a 9 a.m. game, our time. This game is on TNT. Kansas is favored in this game by 4.5. And this is by far the weirdest point spread on the board. Like, I do not know what to make of this. Like, why is the spread so low?
Yeah.
Right. So when that happens, I'm sort of like, Vegas may know something, right? Cincinnati is coming off a bye. Their last game was a 70-0 victory over Northwestern State. Not Northwestern, but Northwestern State, which has some ties to Arizona.
Yep.
Justin, is that right? What is the connection there?
Blake Gocher and Chancellor Owens, defensive lineman, who were studs for Northwestern State, but the Demons were also 0-12 last year.
Yeah. Okay. Kansas last week, 41-10 victory over West Virginia. The yardage differential wasn't that great in that game, but they held West Virginia to 3 of 17 on 3rd down and 4th down. Familiar looking stat for Arizona fans. Jalen Daniels was only 12 of 24, 3 touchdowns, no picks. You like to see that. They also had a substitute running back in that game named LaShawn Williams, who went absolutely off for 129 yards rushing. He also had a 39-yard reception. Cincinnati, again, another team that's way up there in terms of their defense, what they're allowing. 2.6 yards per rush. Very good in that regard, at least so far against the competition they faced. They really haven't faced anybody of great significance since going up against Nebraska. Yet to intercept a pass, the Bearcats. They've also yet to allow a sack. So a lot of weird stats. Weird stats in this game. Kansas is tied for the most sacks in the league defensively. So something feels like it's got to give there. Brendan Sorsby is a really good and mobile quarterback, though. He has an 8-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio and a 70.3 completion percentage so far. I am going to say that Kansas wins this game, but Cincinnati covers the spread. There's got to be a reason that the spread is as low as it is in a game where, like, probably when you at first glance you think at least a touchdown, right, for a pretty good and kind of hot Kansas team. So I got Jayhawks to win, but Cincinnati covers the 4.5.
I'm going with Cincy to win this game. I'm going with Brendan Sorsby and company. This is a team that's number 1 in the Big 12 in offensive efficiency, and this Bearcats team, they're a damn good ball club. And so I think Kansas has done a nice job of kind of turning things around this year. The start to their year is the start to the season that everyone thought they were going to have last year. And it was just a complete train wreck for them. So I think Kansas, great year so far, but Cincinnati, one of the most underrated teams in the conference. I'm going with them to win this game on the road.
I feel like Cincinnati and Houston are solid teams that we just don't talk about very much for whatever reason. Like the Texas teams consume a lot of oxygen in the conference. And then, of course, kind of like the teams that are in our region, we talk about them, ASU and Utah and BYU and some of those teams that are off in the East. Sometimes it feels like they're kind of doing their own thing. Let's see what Jordan has on this one. Justin, he says, all right. He says, please send me Barry Larkin highlights at random times throughout the week. All right. I'll probably do that. He says, Brendan Sorsby is completing 70% of his passes, has 12 total touchdowns to 1 interception, and is spreading the ball around to a bunch of different receivers. The Bearcats run game doesn't jump a ton off the stat sheet, but they have quite a few runners, including Sorsby, contributing in that area, they'll catch a good Kansas team and steal a win.
Hell
So
yeah.
he's also going with Cincinnati. There's another game in that 9 o'clock window. And this is UCF at Kansas State. This game is on Fox Sports 1. UCF is getting 6.5 points. They're the underdogs in this game. Of course, a tragic, terrible situation down there in Orlando with Sean Clark, the offensive line coach, passing away at age 50. Danny Gonzalez talked a lot about this during his media availability. He met Sean Clark a few years ago at some sort of coaches gathering and became friends with him and sent a lot of thoughts and prayers and positive vibes to his family. It is an unimaginable and horrible situation for something like that to happen. So we send our best wishes to Sean Clark and the whole UCF gang as well. This is the first road game for the Knights this year. They looked great against North Carolina last week. It was not even close. I knew within 5 minutes that North Carolina was the wrong side in that game. UCF won going away 34-9. Yet another team that's not giving up any points. I mean, they're holding their opponents to 8.7 points per game so far, which is tied for second in the league with the Arizona Wildcats. I don't think any of us had that on our bingo cards coming into week 4 or 5 or whatever it is. Kansas State, meanwhile, again, not on the bingo cards, 16th in the league. That would be last in total offense, last in rushing offense. So here's the question. Is Kansas State broken on offense like Arizona was last year? Or is it something that they can fix during the course of the season? I'm going to say that this is the get right game for Kansas State. It's got to happen at some point for them. And I also, with all due respect, being totally sensitive to the situation with UCF, sometimes when something like that happens, you're just emotionally drained.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a really difficult game for the Knights, from an emotional standpoint. So for all of those reasons, but mainly because I think Kansas State has to figure it out at some point, I'm going to take the Wildcats of Manhattan and lay the 6.5 points.
I can't imagine losing a coach in the middle of the season, especially a guy that's young like Sean Clark. 50 years old, man. You still have a lot of life left at that age. So yeah, definitely thinking of UCF and Sean Clark's family, the former head coach of App State as well. Yeah, I agree with you, Lev. I think that the emotions of this week, they might play inspired and might play for Sean Clark and give a good effort. And I think under Scott Frost, this is a totally different UCF team. They have a different identity. I think that this UCF team is trending in the right direction. And I don't think Kansas State's offense is broken. I think it's stubborn. That's what I think it is. I think that, it's kind of like ASU or Arizona's offense last year where you're trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. It just seems like you're not maximizing your talents. You're not maximizing Avery Johnson and his ability to run the football. We saw glimpses of what you can do running the football in the early second half against Arizona with that Wildcat formation, getting Jace Brown that big touchdown play. But I think it's been stubborn. They haven't really run the ball effectively, and running the ball has been a part of Kansas State's identity for so many years. And I think they're going to figure out a way to get the run game going, and I think it'll be a bounce-back game for K-State. So I'll go with the Wildcats of Manhattan to win and cover. I think they'll win by a touchdown.
All right, let's see what Jordan had to say about this one. All right, stage direction is please play New York, New York, even though the game is in a different Manhattan. At some point, Kansas State has to catch a break. Their luck changes this week after coming off a bye, and the run game gets back on track. But UCF has been solid so far this year and keeps it to a 3-point game. So He is taking Kansas State to win, but UCF to cover with that 6.5 points. All right. So we are now moving on to the 12:30 p.m. window. We've got 2 games in that window. First one is Baylor at Oklahoma State. This game is on ESPN2. Baylor is favored by 20.5 points And just not to give away the and go with Oklahoma State in this game. Like if it was 27.5, I think I would still go with Baylor. Mike Gundy has been fired, as you mentioned. Doug Meacham has taken over as the interim coach. There are so many categories that Oklahoma State is last in the league in: scoring offense, scoring defense, total defense, rushing defense, third down defense, and they're 15th in a bunch of other categories too. Like this program is in sorry shape. Meanwhile, you've got Baylor with one of the most explosive and productive offenses in the nation. Bryson Washington leads the league in rushing. Sawyer Robertson leads the league in passing yards. So, like, just name the number, right? Like, Baylor's going to put up a crap ton of points.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Well, we're working on getting Lev back in. Okay. Lev just left the podcast briefly. Okay. Well, until Lev gets back on the podcast, let me give you my pick for this. I'm going to go with Oklahoma State to lose this game. I think Baylor is going to absolutely destroy them. Mike Gundy, shout out to him. Great career with the Oklahoma State Cowboys. But, I mean, just the last couple of years, he really has lost the program. I mean, they were making bowl games year after year. I mean, we're talking about under Mike Gundy that they were, making it, I think, like 17 consecutive bowl games. They were ranked for so many years. Like, there was only one guy that could have done the job that Mike Gundy did, and it was Mike Gundy. And so even though it's been bad over the last year and a half, you got to tip your cap to that guy. Unbelievable record with the Cowboys. He's going to land on his feet soon. I don't know where that is, but Mike Gundy will still be coaching college football at some point down the road. But with that being said, Oklahoma State, they're kind of in free fall mode right now, and Baylor's coming off that tough loss to ASU. So I think Baylor's going to kill them. I think I'm going to go with the Bears to win and cover this game.
All right, let's see what Jordan said about this one. All right, his stage directions are: please grow your hair into a mullet at a rapid rate and take no responsibility for any negatives in your life over the past 3 years. All right. I think I know what that's in reference to. He says Sawyer Robertson will throw for roughly 1 bazillion yards. Bullet the horse will have a night off. Friends in low places will evolve into a guttural scream from Oklahoma State fans at the start of the fourth quarter. He's also taken Baylor.
Yep.
All right. So we got one more game in that 12:30 window, and that is Utah at West Virginia. This game is on Fox. Utah is favored. When I sent it out, Utah was favored by 13.5 points. Utah did not look great last week against Texas Tech. Texas Tech looked like the superior team. They were outgained 484 to 263. They were 4 for 16 on third down and fourth down. I mean, Devin Dampier, he completed 25 of 38 passes, but only 162 yards. There's just nothing downfield, like no explosive plays from this team. They're also held to 101 rushing yards on 31 carries, which is just not what I was expecting, right? I was expecting them to kind of pound the ball, like assert their dominance with the offensive line, and it just never happened in that game. West Virginia got blown out at Kansas. They've been having trouble scoring, 15th in the league in points per game. They're averaging only 5.6 yards per play, which is tied for 14th. They have only 2 passing touchdowns on the season. Maybe it's time for a change at quarterback, and that might happen because of injury. Nico Marchiol apparently has some sort of a foot issue, and he went out to Colorado to see a specialist during the week. That is one of many injuries that West Virginia has. Ty Edwards, their top running back, is questionable for this week, according to Rich Rodriguez, pre-availability report. And there's a bunch of other guys too. So I was going to go with West Virginia to at least beat the spread before I heard about all these injuries that Rich Rod was talking about the other day. Because of that, I'm going to go the other way and say that Utah bounces back and is able to cover that 13.5.
Yeah, all those injuries, And then couple with the fact that West Virginia, they are a team that is last in the Big 12 in both third down and fourth down conversions. So that tough Utah defense, if they can show up and keep West Virginia behind the sticks a little bit, then I think Utah will come out and clobber them. So, yeah, give me the Utes in a bounce-back game to win and cover.
Yeah, I will say I was a little disturbed by what I saw from the Utah offense last week. So they need to make some adjustments there. Create a little more misdirection, create some opportunities in the design run game for Devin Dampier, which I just didn't really see a lot of. All right, so stage directions from Jordan on this one. Please do some calf raises while reading this as an homage to Kyle Whittingham. All right. That we could actually probably do. Fun fact, Devin Dampier and Nico Marchiol squared off against each other in the 2021 Arizona Open Division semis. Nico accounted for 310 total yards and 2 scores. Dampier sat out the first half of the year due to transfer and then split time with established starter Ridge Dutchikol. Jason Moans made the hard decision to go exclusively with Dampier in the postseason. For those who didn't know about Dampier before that game against Hamilton, they did after. He ran for over 200 yards and 3 scores. The fifth-seeded SaberCats took down number 1 seed Hamilton 31-24, and Saguaro eventually won its only Open Division championship. Anywho, Dampier and Utah get back on track and beat West Virginia by 17. West Virginia has shown strides this year, but there's still a lot of new on this roster that needs to get figured out. The Utah offensive line takes it out on the Mountaineers after a tough game against Texas Tech last week.
Interesting.
So we're all taking Utah in that game. We will skip Arizona for now and go to what is the last game on the calendar for this weekend involving a Big 12 or Big 12 teams, and that is BYU at Colorado, 7:15 p.m. ESPN. This is the sweet spot TV lineup for both of these schools. They've played in that 7:15 slot on ESPN a bunch over the years. BYU is favored in this game by 6.5 points at Boulder. You got to be impressed with what BYU has done so far. I thought they would have a hard time at East Carolina. They did not. They won handily. Pick 6 toward the end of the first half, like deep in ECU territory, was kind of the turning point in that game. Bear Bachmeier, true freshman, he did just fine. 18 of 25, 246 yards, passing touchdown, rushing touchdown. Didn't really seem to be phased by the moment at all. This BYU defense looks really good. They're allowing 5.3 points per game still, 3 games in, 44.3 rushing yards per game. They also have maybe the best running back in the league in LJ Martin, who rushed for 101 yards last week. He's averaging 114 yards per game and 8.6 yards per carry. It's not like this guy is carrying it 20 times a game deep into the fourth quarter, right? They've won handily every time he's coming out. 8.6 yards per carry. That is significant. Colorado, I don't think they're quite there yet on defense. They did show signs of life last week, though, against Wyoming. Caden Salter played a lot better. 18 of 28, 304 yards, 3 touchdowns. Also had a 35-yard rushing touchdown with 1:46 left in the game to give Colorado the cover over Wyoming. Not bringing that up for any particular reason. Dustin, just to say that maybe, I don't know. Cowboys, Wyoming, you've been great guests here in Tucson, but after blowing the cover 2 weeks in a row, you're banned. Sorry, you're banned. You're not welcome here anymore at the Arizona Bowl. Anyway, I think BYU is better in the trenches in this game, and that is the deciding factor. I also think 6.5 points is a reasonable amount to be giving up here. I can see BYU winning this game by 7 to 10 points. Yeah. I'm going to take the Cougars to win and cover.
7 to 10 points is exactly how much they're going to win by. BYU has outscored its opponents 130 to 16 this year.
Is that good?
That's pretty damn good, if you ask me. And Colorado, they're banged up right now. They're in a really, really tough spot right now in this weird post-Travis Hunter, Shedeur Sanders era. So, yeah, Colorado, they're still figuring themselves out. Like you said, earlier. They've made some, steps in the right direction. But man, this BYU team is just really, really good. And 6.5 that's enticing, man. So I'm going to go with BYU to win and cover this game.
All right, stage directions from Jordan. He says, please dress up like Lion Bachmeier, the forgotten brother of Bear and Tiger Bachmeier. Oh, my. In all seriousness, Bear Bachmeier has 8 total touchdowns and no interceptions through non-conference play. The Cougars average 452 yards per game. The 205 yards per contest they give up is the best in the Big 12. Colorado does not seem capable to move the ball against a quality defense or stop the ball to stay in this one. He is also going with BYU to win and cover. And that leads us to our last game, which is, of course, Arizona at Iowa State. This is a 4 p.m. kickoff in Arizona, 6 p.m. Central Time. If you happen to be going to Ames, Iowa, this game is on ESPN. So big spotlight on the Wildcats and the Cyclones. We went over a lot of the stats and pertinent numbers earlier in this game. One more that I want to bring up to you, Justin.
Oh, okay.
Arizona on defense has a 0 to 5 touchdown to interception ratio. They have not given up a touchdown, and they have intercepted 5 passes. Arizona's quarterback, Noah Fafita, has thrown 6 touchdowns, has not thrown an interception. The only interception thrown by Arizona was thrown by a wide receiver. So, combined, that's like a 11 to 0 touchdown to interception ratio in a stat that I just made up, combining the offense and the defense. I would say that that's pretty good.
I think it's good too.
That is a good thing. Noah has shown a much better ability this year to manage the game after tying for the league lead in interceptions last year. And I think that's going to be important. The 2 things that Danny Gonzalez said would decide this game would be turnovers and third downs. We went over the third down stats earlier. Turnovers, there might be 1 in this entire game, right? Because of the way Iowa State takes care of the ball, and that might make the difference.
Yeah.
So I don't think that Iowa State is superior physically to Arizona, across the board. We talked about how big and strong they are. I don't think they're going to be faster than Arizona necessarily. I think that Arizona has shown that it's going to fight through adversity. It's going to play really hard for 60 minutes. I think the culture is building. Do I think it's possible that Arizona wins this game? I do think it is possible. I am not quite ready to pull the trigger on that. I will take Iowa State to win the game, but I think it's a field goal game. I think it's going to end up 3 points either way. I'll take the Cyclones to win, but Arizona to cover the 6.5 points.
It's funny. This is the first time that Arizona has played against Iowa State since 1968, Lev. And it's the first
before I was born, even.
Wow. Okay.
So,
and it's also the first time that Arizona has gone to Ames since then as well. So it's the first trip to Ames, Iowa, first time in a long time for Arizona. And I don't know if you know this, Lev, but Arizona actually opened up the 1968 season against Iowa State. And they beat the Cyclones 21-12 at Clyde Williams Field, which had 20,908 people in attendance. The stadium now, Jack Trice Stadium, holds roughly 60,000, and that's a sellout. So tripling the crowd from Arizona's last visit to Ames in 1968. And the funny thing about that year, Lev, was so before Arizona played against ASU in that game in the Territorial Cup to end the regular season, Daryl Mudra, the head coach of the Wildcats, actually reached out to the Sun Bowl committee and said, hey, we won our head-to-head matchup with Wyoming, and so we're kind of, up in the standings. It's either you put us in the Sun Bowl before the ASU game, or we're not playing in the game at all. And people started calling it the Ultimatum Bowl. Arizona versus ASU.
Wow.
The Territorial Cup was called the Ultimatum Bowl. And, the Sun Bowl, they took the bait. They're like, okay, we're putting you guys in the Sun Bowl. And it apparently just pissed off ASU fans at that time. So and obviously the ASU football team. So yeah, just a little fun nugget. Just wanted to put that in there, how crazy that 1968 season was for Arizona football, which started with a win over Iowa State in Ames. But looking at this game itself, this is the first time that Arizona is away from Tucson this year. And that's a factor, man. It does help that they're playing against Iowa State in September and not November, so it's not going to be freezing cold. I kind of get the same vibe as the game against Utah last year in Salt Lake City, where Utah was ranked number 10. Now, I think that this year's Iowa State team is much better than last year's Utah team, but I think we're going to see some similar magic, especially out of this defense. The magic in that game against Utah last year kind of came from the defense. They had all those, pass breakups and stuff like that. I think they were
fourth down stops. Yep.
0 for 5 on fourth down. Utah was, at least. So, there was some defensive magic, but the big plays that you saw was Noah's pass to Kean Burnett, a big pass to Devin Hyatt as well. I think, we might see something similar this weekend in Ames. I can't believe I'm going to do it, man, but give me Arizona to win by a field goal, 27-24.
Justin Spears, ladies and gentlemen. How about that? Taking Arizona to win. There have been 6 games between these two teams. There was one game on November 21st, 1964 in Tucson that ended in a 0-0 tie. Now, of course, it is not possible for a game to end in a tie anymore, but I just wonder, Justin, what would you write about if you had to cover a 0-0 game? That's a tough one.
They showed up.
There are literally no scoring plays in that game.
Just look at all these great fourth down stops. That's the key stat. Third down and fourth down stops.
Danny Gonzalez's dream, right?
I know, right?
All right, so let's see what Jordan had to say about this last one here. His stage instructions are: please recreate the "Is This Heaven? No, It's Iowa" scene from Field of Dreams with Justin. Please find a baseball diamond in a cornfield and wear breathable button-up shirts. None of those things are going to happen, but I like the idea here behind this. Justin, I don't know if you got some spare time, maybe you can go to the Field of Dreams there in Iowa when you head out there on Friday. All right, says Jordan, this might be one of the rare times where Arizona would have benefited from not having a bye last week. They had things rolling against Kansas State, and leveraging that momentum might have helped them in a tough environment this week. This is the first time Arizona is on the road, and it's one of the best environments in the conference. I'm curious how an O-line that had some things to clean up will fare away from Arizona Stadium for the first time. I'm not one for moral victories, but Arizona keeping things competitive can be a positive as they hit October, which has plenty of winnable games. He's taken Iowa State to win and cover in this one. They could lose by 7. You'd still be right about that with Iowa State, and that would not be a bad performance,
no.
Right? I feel pretty confident in saying that Arizona is going to be 4-1 when BYU comes to town on October 11th, because you've got Oklahoma State at home the following week, regardless of how things go, unless they, suffer a gazillion injuries, knock wood. Hopefully that doesn't happen. But yeah, so 3 different picks on this one.
I like
Jordan's got Iowa State. I've got Iowa State to win, Arizona to cover, and Justin got Arizona to win in an upset.
Crazy, man. Crazy. Can't wait for this game. Excited. Hopefully we get to see our old friend Tristan Cooper out there. His younger brother, Jeremiah Cooper, one of the defensive backs for the Cyclones. He's killing it this year. He just had a great career at Iowa State in general. They moved him from safety to corner because that's kind of where they see him play. But Iowa State also has some really good defensive backs at safety. Marcus Neal Jr., who's the kind of a do-everything player back there. Look out for him to have a big game. But it should be a fun one. Saturday evening in Ames. It will be more so Saturday afternoon when the folks out here in Tucson, Arizona watch it. That game is at 4 p.m. on ESPN, and Lev's going to have coverage, as will I, from Ames, Iowa. Make sure you check out our coverage on Tucson.com, also the Wildcaster app. And as always, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and comment the Wildcast podcast.